What are some things that are normal to women but mind-blowing to men? Story 1. Discharge can bleach underwear, not stain, actually remove color. It took me years to accept that this is normal and not me being weird or something. Dude, my aunt didn't believe me when I told her I have an acidic pH because I'd bleach all my underwear. She swore up and down that I stained a pair of black underwear. The crotch was like a brownish orange. I was so upset. Apparently not all women know this either. Story 2. IUDs are inserted without any kind of anesthetic. If you're lucky, they warn you to take some Advil beforehand. Then they grab your cervix with metal tongs and force it open. I was swearing uncontrollably during the procedure, cried and was close to passing out for 30 minutes and felt sick for the rest of the day. It was the most pain I've ever been in. I remember being so pissed off at the doctor for downplaying how painful it could be during our original discussion about getting one. A pinch and some pressure my ass. I feel like I'm constantly being gaslighted by the medical community. Mine went sideways and had to be pulled out. They told me it wouldn't hurt, and it was the most pain I've ever felt in my entire life. I was on the pill and was experiencing insane mood swings. My doctor told me it was not possible and prescribed me an antipsychotic instead. I went off the pill and my mood swings completely stopped. I don't even know where to go from here. I knew when my doctor said it would hurt a little that it was going to hurt a lot. The doc pain scale goes, you won't feel a thing equals it's going to hurt, but only for a second. It will hurt a little, you'll want to prepare by taking some ibuprofen equals it's going to be blindingly painful, so be prepared to scream. It's going to hurt equals we're going to have to knock you out for this procedure because it will be so painful. And yes, indeed, it did hurt. Having an IUD put in means having a literal physical object inserted into an internal organ, and yet that somehow doesn't warrant local anesthesia, or at the very least more powerful pain meds / anti-anxiety stuff. Nope, just bite down on some leather and pray you don't crap yourself. My doctor prescribed me Valium for before the procedure, but I had to ask for it, and I only knew to ask because I was warned by others who experience an extremely painful IUD insertion. Otherwise, I would have probably just expected it to not be much worse than a regular PAP. ETA, I just want to send some internet hugs to all of my fellow people with uteruses whose pain is not taken seriously. My doctor is very compassionate and often mindful of pain, but I still had to ask for the Valium and a numbing spray the day of. Don't be afraid to advocate for yourself, and if your OBGYN is giving you a hard time and you have the means, I would encourage you to look elsewhere. Though I understand this is not an option for everyone. I've had OBGYNs who have been so mindful of pain, and I've had ones who have made me feel like I'm a giant drama queen for experiencing pain even during a regular PAP, and being so rough that I was bleeding afterward. All of my OBGYNs have been women. I sincerely hope women's health starts to be taken more seriously. Yep, ever since I got mine, I have been very vocal about warning other women. I still think it was worth it, for me personally, and I still have the IUD. It was this extremely debilitating period. I don't know if I'll get another one once this one has run its course. My hope is that I'll be in menopause at that point and can just use the pill again. But fellow women deserve to know how painful the reality of it is, and goddamn is it painful. The OBGYN that inserted mine was a woman, and she still fed me the "it hurts a little, just like a brief pinch" BS line. Part of me wonders if she told me that so I wouldn't be scared off, but I would rather have been warned. During the insertion procedure, I was just kind of laying there, pale, with my eyes wide open because I was trying not to scream. The doc was like, "You're handling this better than most patients," and I was just barely clinging on. If my struggle not to pass out was handling it better than most, then I seriously wonder how it goes for other women who have no warning. Story 3. The wizardry that they do with their hair in split seconds. Like, women, how the F do you get your hair tied up in a bun in the time it takes me to blink? Men can basically use a bar of soap only on their entire body and be showered and ready in 10 minutes. I can put my hair up in a nanosecond, but that's after shampooing, conditioning, blow drying, and maybe a flat iron. My sister yelled at me for not being ready because I had just gotten out of the shower and we needed to go in 10 minutes. I walked through the door, threw on undies, pants, a t-shirt, and stepped into shoes and walked out 3 minutes later. I hate men. It's more of a skill issue. I can only manage a ponytail at most. Ask me to do a basic braid and I'll spend an hour working on it for it to still come out as a mess with loose hair strands hanging out. I don't know how people manage to do complex hairstyles without another pair of eyes at the back of their head. My husband has grown his hair long and sometimes asks me how to do it. I can do his, I can do mine, but I can't explain how to do it. It's just muscle memory at 35 years and never having hair shorter than shoulder length and having it as long as down to my ass. I have to just slow myself down so that he can watch what I do so that he can copy it, which reminds me, I promised I'd teach him how to braid himself some pigtails. Story 4. How they can take their bra off from under their shirt. I don't know why we find it so impressive, but it is. I get so annoyed when I remember I'm wearing a front-closing bra. You'd think it'd be easier to get off, but my brain just doesn't function that way. I had a hookup many years ago that opened my front-closing bra with one hand. I'm still impressed. Back in my hookup days, I was with this busty girl who was straddling me with her jugs in my face. She took her top off and then hit me with the dreaded, "take my bra off." I reached back and the moment my index finger touched it, the clasp came undone and her bra came sliding down. I think it had come like 2/3 of the way unclasped and it was just hanging on by that one brave little clasp. And this girl was a double D. That clasp was putting in work. Anyways, this girl was so impressed. She was like, "You did that one-handed? You really know what you're doing, huh? This is gonna be fun." That happy little accident massively oversold my sexual capabilities. Best minute and a half of her life. It was just during that time in my life when I really had no moves, you know? My lineup was basically doggy, missionary where she lays on the bed and I stand up at the edge, and belly-to-belly missionary. There was also the fact that she was a little thicker and I'm working with the most average-sized penis on the planet. It took all 4 of our combined hands to hold her cheek meat back so that my little barbarian could reach the gates. Story 5. That girls start getting verbally sexualized by a certain kind of grown man, commonly around 11 years old. Even worse, the first time I was catcalled, I was 12. Now that I'm over 25, I don't get catcalls anymore, or if I do, it's very rare. I've heard other women have a similar experience. If only it were just verbal. When I was 12, I was alone at the bus stop waiting to go home. A cab stopped next to me. The driver motioned for me to get inside, and when I ignored him and got on the bus, he trailed the bus and parked outside of my home, where he remained for a while before leaving. Thank God I was smart and asked the bus driver to please let me get off the bus right in front of my home instead of 2 blocks away where the actual bus stop was. The first verbally sexual comment made about me was by a man who lived in the neighborhood we had just moved into when I was 2.5 years old. He was walking by while mom was playing with me in the yard and he stopped to tell her she had a sexy daughter. She called the police, but it was 1989 and they did nothing. The next time a man said something directly to me, I was 9. I was waiting for French fries from a food truck across the road from my house. He sat down at the picnic table beside me and started talking about the summer heat and how he liked to hang out in his underwear at home while it was hot, before asking me directly if I would like to come to his house and join him in my underwear. I got so scared I ran home without even getting the food I already paid for. It starts very early, often long before 11, when some girls like myself are already in puberty. Unfortunately, at those younger ages, we don't always understand exactly what's being said or implied, so we don't tell anyone about it. There were 2 occasions of men sitting in their cars at our school bus stop when I was 6 and again at 8 that we didn't know, trying to make conversation with us kids and convince us into their cars as well. I was followed by 2 adult men in the neighborhood where I was living at the time for 3 days/nights when I was barely 13 years old. I was with my mother during most of this. She hadn't noticed, but I had, because she taught me to be hyper aware of my surroundings. I told her and she began to notice seeing them everywhere we went. It culminated in us being followed from the nearby convenience store home and having to switch our route home. Once home, we told other family members. They already knew, but we told them they tried to follow us home. We had a front porch and I was sitting there. Turns out one of the men was hiding in the bushes in front of our place. My uncle and mom chased him off. My uncle would have killed him if he had gotten to him. He always carried a knife for protection. Neighbors came out with bats and other things because of the yelling. I grew up in a bad neighborhood in a major city. The neighbors stuck around and offered to keep an eye out in case those men ever came around again. My mom always taught me to be hyper-vigilant about my surroundings and safety from an early age, and to try to travel even to the store with someone. As a woman, it didn't matter if I was a child or an adult. I was viewed with a sexual gaze and as prey. I had and have to be on guard because of it. It's unfortunate that women in general have to live this way. I'm a guy. I'm what you would describe as a twink by appearance. I remember when I was 14, I bleached and dyed my hair and pierced my ears. All of a sudden, walking down the street and on the train, I had much older men being really friendly, saying, "Hey cutie," and insistently inviting me home with them. I was really confused about what was happening until I told my girlfriends about it, and they were like, "Yeah, they want to F you. They're old creeps. It happens to all of us." It kind of blew my mind. I had no idea women were sexualized from such a young age before then, especially by such older men. It was really my first insight into what misogyny means, as a man to whom it's otherwise mostly invisible. The past 5 to 10 years have really been eye-opening for me as a dude. At first, I read so many stories from friends of this type of harassment from men. Then I kept reading stories of just random women online, and so many said the same thing. It wasn't that I didn't believe them, it's that I was never witness to it, as I didn't hang out with men like that, so I didn't realize just how bad this was. I'm so glad I now know the truth, but it's that truth that now makes me worry for my daughter's future. She's only 2.5 right now, and I can only hope that in 9 to 20 years, we've done some bettering of ourselves. But holy crap, am I scared. I know I can't be there to protect her whole life, although I'll want to. I'm her dad. How can I not? So I've been trying to give her good examples from day one, like my dad did for me. I just hope and pray that she grows up with the confidence and strength to know that she's amazing and worth so much more than what men are going to try and value her. I just want her to be safe and happy, and to know that her worth isn't based on what others think, especially douchey men. Story 6. You are standing in a busy bar and someone wants to pass you. If you're a guy, "Hey, excuse me," a little tap on the shoulder, a friendly smile, and a request to move. If you're a girl, someone puts their hands on your waist and tries to move your body away. I'm a guy, and unsolicited touching or being touched on the waist makes my skin crawl. I read a thing once along the lines of, you should never touch someone in a way that you wouldn't like a 6-foot burly bearded man to touch you. I try to stick to that. As a guy who's never really unsafe or uncomfortable, I still find it very weird how comfortable and open people are about touching other people. Even just an open palm on someone's back as you move around them. It's avoidable almost every time I see it, and yet people do it to strangers all the time. Same with moving a girl. I understand there can be a flirty aspect to it at the right moment, but like 90% of the time it feels like a creep at a place that isn't meant for mingling and hookups trying to touch a girl. This used to happen to me all the time, in any crowd situation. I'm 5 feet tall, and the number of dudes who would just haul me wherever they wanted was insane. Bars, concerts randomly picking me up to be noticed by whoever they're showing off for. Like, I legitimately had perfect strangers on the college campus just randomly pick me up and then be like, "See, I told you I could," to random other perfect strangers, like I was an object for their demonstrative use. Story 7. The amount of toilet paper used. For sure, when I was single, 1 pack, 24 rolls, would last me 6+ months easily. Once my fiance moved in, well, my toilet paper budget went up a lot. It's okay. She's so worth it. My college had free toilet paper you could pick up from the student center, but for some reason, there was a rule clearly written by men that you could only pick up 2 rolls at a time. It was also the thin toilet paper that you go through quickly because you need so much of it. I was in a room with 5 women. Sometimes several of us were on our periods at the same time. There were days when I had to make multiple trips out there per day. Ridiculous. I wanted to make whoever came up with that rule do the trips for us. My husband saw me get toilet paper to wipe after I peed and was like, "Jesus, is that really necessary?" So I go, "How many sheets do you think I need to wipe?" This motherfucker goes, 2. I'm like, "Okay, bet." I take 2 sheets of toilet paper, wipe myself, show him my hand is soaked. I go, "Don't question my TP consumption again. You don't know what you're talking about. Then he made fun of me for getting pee all over my hand to prove a point. I work in child safety, and one of the things I used to have to do all the time was have actual conversations with dads who try to control their children's toilet paper use. For some reason, people think we should let it slide because we just accepted dads being grumpy and shaming girls about certain stuff. We don't even pick up on the fact that a lot of it is literally just rooted in making them feel bad and thinking that's funny. So I've had dads complain or try to limit their girls to like 2 squares of toilet paper a day or whatever. So what I do is make them think about how many times you should urinate per day. Add in the difference in biology/wiping plus a bonus for periods, then they usually get it. On one hand, I understand that everybody wants an opportunity for some good-natured ribbing or dads being dads, but that should be around the stuff that doesn't make girls ashamed of their bodies. Story 8. Skincare in general, my girlfriend uses lotion even for her feet. I barely use one for my face, and she does it every night. When I was dating a girl in my early 20s, her brother used a bunch of lotion and he still looked younger in his 30s, and it made me start using lotion regularly after that. I'm 33 now, and I got complimented last year that I don't look as old as I am, so maybe it's worth it. As a man who did not put much effort into skincare until after I met my wife, let me tell you that it makes a massive difference. Get yourself a good facial cleanser, toner, and moisturizer, and you will see a noticeable difference in a week. It helps slow down the effects of aging and any fine lines, even if you don't have them yet. It's a preventative measure. For the rest of your body, get a big tub of Aquaphor and lather that all over your body. If you're a fellow bald like I am, using it on your head after a shave will reduce any razor burn effects and the excessively dry skin from a razor. Feet is one of the places you should be prioritizing lotion, not a kooky, wacky, far-out extra place to put lotion. Some people's faces are oily and don't need moisturizer, but pretty much everyone's feet need it, and when you neglect it, people can see it. Elbows, knees, feet. Every single day. Your feet look ragged and disgusting without it, no matter how clean they are. I have a girl best friend, and this is one of the things I learned from her. Her hygiene routine is insane, and she rarely wears any makeup, just lots of cleansers and moisturizers and such. She's taught me quite a bit, and I've adopted some of it, and honestly, just having a specific facial cleanser and a moisturizer makes such a difference. It helped so much with my dry skin that it even helps with dandruff. Story 9. How absolutely horrifically painful period cramps can be. Like can't think straight, vomiting, wanting to die, and levels in pain. 3 Advil in 45 minutes can get many of us back to good as new though, until 6 to 8 hours later when it wears off. ETA. I know this shouldn't be normal, but unfortunately it kind of is. I've also talked to gynecologists about it, and there isn't much to do besides take birth control, which I don't like the other side effects of. I also only bleed for 4 days, and it's a normal to light flow, so endometriosis is unlikely. I'm also pregnant right now and enjoying no periods. I mentioned that my ovaries hurt, and it blew my male friend's mind. He didn't know we could feel them. Like, yeah, they're basically the female equivalent of testicles, man, except they're scheduled to hurt every month. I told my doctor once my ovaries hurt, and she said, use real words to describe what I was feeling. I was in my early 30s at the time. Not that ovaries aren't real words, but apparently I have this pain right here. Pointing is what she wanted, because I mean, why would I know where my ovaries were, right? Most men, me included, don't really know what pain is. We'd have to be in combat or have some unusual terrible accident to feel the levels of pain that most women are forced to endure on a regular basis. Despite this, women function just as well as men do and are capable of the same achievements if they're not held back by sexism and intolerance. Women are amazing. None of us can claim such an extreme fact. Pain is very subjective, and it is a guessing game trying to assess the intensity of the pain another person is feeling. Broad generalizations are stupid enough. Saying that one gender outright feels no pain compared to the other is just ignorant. You personally might not have felt much pain, many men might not have, just like a lot of women might definitely never felt any real pain in life. Childbirth or menstrual cramps are also highly varied in intensity from person to person. Then we have people with chronic pain in their joints, migraines, muscles, whatever else. Kidney stones, illness, cancer, and dental pain are also very common. None of these are gender specific and vary in intensity. So get a ladder and step off of that white knight high horse, and don't just dismiss 50% of the global population as experiencing no pain unless they are in combat, whatever that means. Running around with a rifle until you get shot to death or blown up is hardly the worst kind of pain you can experience, nor is a fist fight. Story 10. The number of women who have suffered sexual abuse at one point or another in their lives, it is absolutely unbelievable to me, although I know it's true. Came here to say this. Every single girl I know has been touched inappropriately by a man, yet somehow none of my guy friends know anyone who has done it. The math ain't matching. Trying to explain this to most men I know is baffling. They absolutely do not believe me, and people wonder why so many rapes go unreported. I think some just don't even register it as inappropriate contact. X, going to a bar/live music with my husband, having too much to drink, dancing around. My husband has to use the bathroom, so my drunk self keeps dancing. Suddenly, a stranger is behind me with his hands on my waist, pulling me back against him. I nope out of there and go stand in the middle of a bachelorette party group trying to blend in until my husband gets back. I doubt that guy or his friends thought, wow, that was creepy and weird. He was just a guy having a good time trying to dance with a drunk girl, right? No, made me so uncomfortable and icky. Deep down, I want to believe that it's a small percent of men perpetuating this. I wish we could truly know, but until then, as a man, you are always going to be a potential predator, no matter how nice or harmless you may view yourself. It sucks for both halves of the equation. So, this is a weird thing for me. In the whole history of my partners, I have two extremes. I told my partner that I wasn't happy because I didn't want to have sex, but I pressured myself. He flipped out, saying I was accusing him of rape, which was certainly not the case, and it was truly all me. Nothing would calm him down after that. One of my other partners was outright told no because I was tired, and then I woke up sometime later to him inside of me. It took so long for me to acknowledge that as rape. It didn't feel like what I thought rape was supposed to feel like, and my brain refused to believe that. So, I would include the weird mentality about sexual abuse as well. I wish more men knew this. It really would blow their minds how many women they know have been sexually assaulted, groped, raped, or otherwise violated, including their wives, girlfriends, daughters, mothers, sisters, friends, and coworkers. Women they care about and/or see every day, and they spend their lives having no idea that all of those women have experienced it. My mother was severely abused sexually from childhood up to adulthood. I would say/hope it's been about a decade of no SA for her. Naturally, I grew up being warned of men's behavior, to carry a pen as a woman and aim for the eyes or throat. I made it to 18 and then I was raped. It has ruined me, and I'm no longer who I was, just a shell of a person. I'm 23 now. My boyfriend and I were talking about it at some point, and he was both disgusted and shocked that my outlook was, well, at least it happened at 18. As I doubt it'll be the last time, so I'm mentally prepped for it to happen again. Bleak as fuck, but it's true. I remember being a child and having male friends try to hump me. Men are disgusting, and at this rate I expect nothing of them. Boyfriend is the exception. I trust him with my body 100%. Story 11. Going to the doctor for a legitimate problem only to be treated as dramatic, lying, attention-seeking, depressed, overweight, and then outright dismissed because you are female and not getting the help you need. It took 16 years for someone to take my weird abdominal pain seriously. Tests were inconclusive, so surely I was just med-seeking. Turns out I had wicked gallstones, but the only symptom was the excruciating pain. My mom was convinced I just wanted attention. Had one sister suffer years of being told it was all in her head and needed her gallbladder removed by the time they finally believed her. My other sister had stage 4 endometriosis before being diagnosed and had been told by a gyno previously that she was just constipated and to eat some raisins. I told myself that my years of chronic tonsillitis from age 7 to 21 were caused by stress. I was 7 for F's sake when it started. 14 years and I managed to eventually get my tonsils out, and it was life-changing. Was then told by the same doctor in my 20s that I didn't have postnatal depression and I just needed to go back to work again. Was also told years later whilst suicidal that I wasn't really that bad and didn't need to be with the mental health crisis team. I then tried to kill myself because I felt like there was no hope of getting help. I was also prescribed just paracetamol for a burst ovarian cyst. My daughter is currently having terrible trouble with her periods, and I'm pretty reluctant to even bring her to a doctor until I speak to them first, so that the gaslighting doesn't start at age 15 for her. Doctors just make me mad. The average time between the onset of symptoms and diagnosis of endometriosis is 11 years. When I inquired with my doctor about it, she said, "You don't have to worry about that until you're trying to get pregnant." Oh, okay. I'll just be in excruciating pain every period until then, I guess. I know someone who waited until they were trying to have kids to deal with their endo. They ended up not being able to have kids and ultimately having a hysterectomy. I sometimes wonder if things would have turned out differently for her if her endo had been caught earlier and taken seriously. Took me 13 years to be diagnosed with endometriosis. Meanwhile, I was in so much pain with a horrific amount of bleeding that literally left me housebound 95% of the time. The number of times doctors dismissed me, told me it's not that bad, told me it's normal and it's all in my head, and then told me to, well, okay, it sounds bad, but you can't get a hysterectomy because your only value is a walking uterus. It took me so long to find a doctor who would take me seriously. I finally got a hysterectomy because nothing else was working to help me. But the fact it took away all of my 20s, I had to fight so hard for it was obscene. I was stage 4 endo with rupturing cysts and lesions that could have killed me had I not gotten the surgery when I did. I'm a psychiatrist, and many patients have been referred to me in the past when their primary doctor runs out of ideas or feels that they are in over their head with emotional or personality problems. I have caught metastatic cancer, MS, epilepsy, infections, hyper/hypothyroidism, iron deficiency, and more just by doing standard of care based on patients' symptoms, having some critical thinking skills, and taking a good history. A vast majority of these patients were women, and in many of the cases, I basically had to harass the patient's primary provider to do any workup whatsoever. It's incredibly disheartening, not only because it shouldn't have taken a psychiatrist to catch those things after the patient had seen their provider or specialists multiple times, but also because I know that there are likely things that I am missing as well. Questions I should have asked but didn't. Things that should have popped into my head but didn't. Things I've forgotten after specializing. And in those cases, the patient has no one. It's infuriating and saddening, and also pretty wild how many of these women would have legit lawsuits on their hands if they knew the extent of it. Most are just relieved to get an actual diagnosis and start treatment on something. Story 12. Lock your car immediately when you get in it, before the seatbelt or putting the key in. This fully saved me one night. In the US Pacific Northwest, it gets dark really early in the winter. I needed to find places to walk my dog in the evening that were well lit, whenever I was tired of just walking her on my street, so I sometimes drove to areas that I know are public and well lit. One time, I was climbing back into my car and had just closed and locked the doors when this guy appeared out of nowhere and tried to open my door. Couldn't because it was locked. He tried to play it off and get me to roll down my window like he had something to tell me. I held up my pepper spray to the window and he finally backed off and ran away. It was like 8 p.m. Always lock your car doors, y'all. Crazy. I had to get gas pretty late one night when I worked in retail and the exact same thing happened to me. The guy came over and tried to open the door, then tapped on the window and acted like he wanted to give me something. I turned the car on and he ran off. Glad you were safe. Story 13. Women and their girlfriends have to track each other on apps after nights out, gym, almost any activity in public just to make sure they all get home okay. A long time ago, when my wife and I were first dating, she met a bunch of my friends for the first time over dinner, and we ended up going out to some club afterwards. While we were inside, my wife, then girlfriend, said she had to go to the bathroom, and so as she started to walk over, my friend's girlfriend linked arms with her and said she'd accompany her to the bathroom. I thought it was a nice gesture to be friendly, given that it was her first time meeting her. When they returned, I talked to my friend's girlfriend and thanked her for being nice, then made some kind of dumb joke about how women always accompany each other to the bathroom to freshen up and talk about boys. She then blew my mind as she told me that sure, that does happen at times, especially in movies and such, but that the real reason she accompanied my girlfriend was to ensure that she wasn't groped or attacked on her way to the bathroom. I initially scoffed at the idea and thought that she was being incredibly dramatic, but then I quickly learned that she and her friends had all been groped or attacked by drunken sleazy men in these kinds of club settings, and that it happens more often than you'd think. Really blew my mind. It's something I, as a guy, never had to be concerned with. Thanks for watching until the end. If you have a similar story to these that you would like to share with us, and you feel comfortable doing so, please leave it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like and subscribe. For more videos like this one right now, please stop by our channel. Thanks again, and see you next time.